Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a good number of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, many different styles, and I would count this brewery as one of my favourite Swedish breweries mainly because they produce a lot of different things and they always tend to be pretty damn good actually. But yeah, looking forward to trying this one. It's a style that I know I enjoy, so fingers crossed it's another interesting beer, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. Got to get that Gothenburg catchphrase in when we're reviewing the Gothenburg beers because it is just channel tradition these days. And for this review, we are going to have a look at another one from Beerbliotek. So this particular beer is called Am I Bit Not Bitter Enough? It comes in at 8.5% ABV, and from what I understand, this one is an old school West Coast double IPA. So yeah, this is number 309 in the Beerbliotek numbering system, and this was released as part of the Lokal och Småskalig assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden for July of 2021. So yeah, very, very curious to see how this one turns out. I've had some awesome West Coast double IPAs and West Coast IPAs generally from Beerbliotek over the years. Probably my favourite one was the Eternal Dankness, which seems to come out every year. So yeah, I do have high hopes for this one. So let's crack on with the review then and see how we go. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Beerbliotek before. You will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Beerbliotek then. So Beerbliotek, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Gothenburg, Göteborg, up on the Swedish west coast, and the company was founded back in 2013 by a multinational group of friends. This is Adam Norman, who's from Australia, Richard Bull, who's a Kiwi, New Zealander, Anders Hedlund, who is Swedish, and then Daryl De Necker, who's from South Africa. So Adam and Richard ran Bar Doppio in Gothenburg, and Daryl and Anders were regular customers at the bar, and they often just used to sit and chat away to each other about different kinds of beer, share knowledge, recommend beers and all of this kind of thing. And then one day they decided they were going to pool their money together and buy a kit and brew their own beer, and it went well for them. So the original brewery that these guys set up is in the old Klippan Sugar building, which is a really nice old building very close to the old Carnegie brewery in Gothenburg, which is quite a famous company. I still need to review the old Carnegie Porter. I say that every time I do a Beerbliotek review. But the brew kit that they had originally was from Brewfab in Scotland, and in their first year they produced 38 different varieties of beer, and all of their beers are brewed in small batches, so that they say that they stick to their home brewing roots of very rarely brewing the same beer. Originally that was what they were doing, but these days they have got certain beers that prove to be very popular. They rebrew those quite often, but they don't have a fixed range as such, and they do focus on producing new beers all the time. So they're big, I guess you could say, instead of brewing small batches these days, they're more focusing on kind of recipe development. But yeah, you will get new beers from this brewery pretty much every month. But in July of 2015 they opened up a second brewery in Kungston, which is where they now have their tap room and run their main brewing operations. The old brewery is used for producing sour beers, although I've not seen too many of them of late, so I will need to look into that. But they're also working on they've also been working on, I should say, a barrel aging project in the new brewery, but they've only released one beer from that through Systembolaget so far, and I hope that they do that, they fix that over the next little while. I would love to try a few more things from the barrel aging project, but as I say, you just never really find them, so I'm not sure if there's one of the Danish web shops or something that I can use to order some of those. But yeah, finding some of the barrel aging program from Beerbliotek is a little bit difficult. I've not really seen anything from the sour beer program either for a little while. But yeah, the idea behind the name Beerbliotek is that they want to brew a wide variety of beers so that their customers can always learn something new about a hop, a new malt, or a kind of yeast or something like that. But they took the Latin word for library and changed it to beerized, Beerbliotek instead of bibliotek. So yeah, it works. It really does work. But like I said, these guys are a very, very prolific brewery, and as of July 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 290 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And you'll notice that this one is number 309 in their inventory, if you like. So I think there are a few that are in the barrel aging program, but there are a few that have been thrown away for not being all that great, from what I understand as well. But yeah, most of the beers do make it out, and that's, as I say, the thing that I really admire about this brewery. They're not scared to try different things, and about 95% of their beer turns out to be pretty damn good, actually. So yeah, that's it. That's all I can really tell you about Beerbliotek for the moment. I always enjoy reviewing a new beer from these guys every month, and I always try to do a different style every month as well. But yeah, if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, we can get rid of the brewery notes now and we can move on to the beer itself. So as I told you, this one is an 8.5% West Coast double IPA. Apparently it's got a load of Citra in it. I think it might be a single hop Citra, although it wasn't too clear on the Beerbliotek website about that. But as you can see, the artwork on this one is pretty typical from what we get from Beerbliotek. I do enjoy the artwork that they have. I like their cans, and you can see the thing that I always point out here. I love it that Beerbliotek put in Swedish craft beer. I do like this. But it says, am I not bitter enough? Is my malt too broken? Do I foam too much? Are my hops too outspoken? We're not too bitter at beerbliotek.com. I do like the little sassy comments you get on these cans as well. But there you can see Beerbliotek, am I bitter enough? 8.5% West Coast double IPA. Or they just say double IPA on this one. But yeah, 330ml can. I think I paid either 35 or 40 Swedish krona for this. So probably, most likely I paid 40 for it. So let's say that. So I think, yeah, 40 kroners translates to roughly £3.50. Yeah, £3.50 sterling, €4, and then I guess somewhere in the region of like, $4.75 American, something like that. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Am I not bitter enough? Number 309, West Coast double IPA from Beerbliotek in Kungston, up in Gothenburg. Let's get this guy out and get on with the tasting then. Oh, you can smell that already. It's going to be very, very nice. There we are. So, no sediment left on the bottom of the can either, so you can tell then it's pretty damn fresh. So, let's have a little look at this then. So, as you can see with this beer, it does have a little bit of a kind of natural haze sort of thing to it, but before the head disappears, not the haze, before the head disappears, this one has poured with about a half finger of a frothy, I would say creamy coloured head. That is starting to fade away already though, but I'm sure it will leave a nice big ring around the edge of the glass. But yeah, I would say nice kind of slightly creamy tinted head, this one. Not an absolutely perfect white, but not far off it, I would say. But in terms of colour, this beer, I would say it's a really rich, kind of slightly darker yellow colour. I think it's appearing a little bit lighter to you guys on the camera than it is to me with the naked eye. But yeah, I'd say a nice kind of rich, darker yellow. So remember, the colour of your beer is dependent on 1, the type of malts that you use. That determines the magnitude of the colour. 2, the length of your wort boil. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. And any adjuncts or barrel aging or anything like that will affect the colour of your beer as well. But when it comes to IPAs like this, those factors don't usually come into play. But yeah, certainly looks the part of a West Coast, sort of more West Coasty double IPA. This one, you can see it's got that sort of natural haze to it rather than the soupy gloopy sort of thing that you'll get from the New Englanders. I'm just going to check if this beer has a little bit of wheat or something like that in it, because sometimes they put a little bit of wheat in West Coast IPAs. I've seen that from a few, but it says no, just water, malt, hops, sugar and yeast. So yeah, this one will be a barley malt, basically a full barley malt base. So yeah, going by the colour of it, it will have some element of you know, carapils or, you know, something like that, a sort of more brown sugary orientated malt, and you can smell that a little bit when you open it up. But yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. So let's have a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we go. As I said, this one is hopped with Citra, an American hop, 14% alpha acid, usually big, oily, juicy mango notes out of it. You know, the oiliness depends on the malt base, and in a West Coast IPA, the fruits tend to be a little bit more oily. But yeah, you do get a good kind of lemon, limey, zesty kind of thing out of these too. But yeah, let's take a look at that aroma then and just see how we get on. Yeah, it does smell pretty damn nice, I have to say. Not surprised, because as I say, I know I've had quite a few experiences with this brewery. I must have reviewed about 25 beers or some, maybe even 30 beers from this brewery over the years. But yeah, this is lovely. So once again, big thumbs up to Beerbliotek for this one. But yeah, it is very, very nice. So where to start with this then? I'd say that it's, you know, it does come across as properly old school. When we talk about West Coast IPAs, I would always say there's two directions to take these in. So they can either be big, oily, caramelly things, such as, you know, the Sierra Nevada Torpedo, or they can be more, you know, they can be a little bit more kind of biscuity and bready, such as the, you know, Pliny the Elder from Russian River. So bear that in mind. But yeah, the aroma from this one is very, very nice, and this leans a little bit more towards that kind of bready and biscuity type thing. So yeah, a nice kind of smooth kind of white bready base to this one. There's a little bit of a bread crusty character in there. On top of that, you've got a little bit more of a kind of oily as I would say, a little bit more of a kind of oily biscuity kind of thing. So we have a wee bit, as you would say, yeah, we have a wee bit of a kind of, you know, that McVitie's digestive sort of biscuity thing. So yeah, bready backbone, a little bit of a kind of bread crusty, a bit of bread crusty note either end, and then you also have, as I say, there is a wee bit of a sweet caramel to it, but then it's a more McVitie's digestive biscuity like sort of thing. Other than that, I don't know if there's too much to say about the malt base in this one from the aroma perspective, but yeah, it does smell pretty nice actually. The more you smell of it, the more the breadiness kind of thickens up in this one a little bit, I would say. But yeah, aroma to this one is pretty nice. On the hoppy side of things, it's got some pretty interesting characteristics as well. So yeah, little tiny bit of earthiness to it, but the green component for me is big and floral and slightly kind of spicy, if you like. You know, Citra is going to give you a little bit of that, but potentially you might put a little bit of Columbus or something like that. And this, it does smell kind of distinctively spicy in a sense, but I get the impression from this beer that it's not going to be overly bitter. I think this might be one where the IBUs have been taken down a wee bit, but everything else about it will be old school West Coasty. But yeah, you can smell a nice little bit of a kind of dank, you know, sort of floral spiciness to the beer. I wouldn't say pine resins with this one, though. It does have a nice bright floral aromaticity to it and a bit of spiciness underneath. But then you've also got a little bit of a, you do have a more kind of grassy, you do get a little bit of a kind of grassy, zesty quality out of this one. So yeah, the aroma on the green side of things, I think, is very, very nice. But fruity side then, definitely, as I was saying earlier, you get that big oily mango note out of this one from the Citra. You can smell that right away with the beer. There are a few other undertones to that, like, you know, a wee bit of a, you do get a bit of a slightly stronger passion fruit, of course, and you do get some kind of apricot-y qualities and maybe a little bit of pineapple, but I'm tempted to say more passion fruit and apricot are the undertones, but it's a big oily mango to this beer, I would say. But I do think as well that there is a sort of, you know, there is a little bit of a kind of, there is a wee bit of a kind of, I almost wonder if there is a wee bit of cascade in this too, because I do get just a tiny little bit of that kind of figgy kind of note underneath. You do get a little bit of that almost like figgy kind of element to it. One thing I was told by a home brewer one time is that what they used to do with a lot of these old school West Coast IPAs is that the sugar, they used to put a little bit of sugar in them, but it would be some sort of fruit sugar, like a slightly red fruity sugar, just to round out the fruits a little bit more. And the aroma that you get out of this one reminds me of that. And when it says sugar on the can as well, I do wonder that it could be I think the one that they used in their homebrew was like a plum sugar. So yeah, that was quite that was an interesting thing for sure. But yeah, the aroma in there, it definitely has a wee bit of a kind of red fruity undertone to it, and it reminds me of Cascade a little bit. But yeah, there's certainly a wee bit of a kind of lemon limey character to this beer as well, and again, that's something that you can get from Citra. But yeah, the fruity component for me, overwhelmingly mango, but yeah, a little bit of apricot and a little bit of kind of passion fruit in there as well, and a wee touch of a sort of lemon limey quality as well. But yeah, I guess we can leave it at that for the aroma. Take a bit of time to ponder it over though. That's always half the experience when it comes to craft beers and whiskies and sakes and things, as I say. But yeah, lovely aroma this one, and it does smell properly old school. Just not quite as bitter, but we'll see how we get on with the flavour. So yeah, I think it's about time that we had a go of this one then. So this one is the Am I Not Bitter Enough, number 309, and 8.5% West Coast, I believe, double IPA from Beerbliotek in Gothenburg up on the Swedish west coast. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skull, cheers. Yeah, that is pretty nice. As I said, not as bitter as the old school West Coast IPAs were, but everything else about it is pretty spot on, and you can rely on Beerbliotek for that. These guys know how to do both the hazies and the West Coasters. They know how to do these very well. They're very good at the black IPAs as well. I've not had had a black IPA from them. I was going to say I hadn't had a black IPA from them for a wee while, but we reviewed one just a few videos ago, and again, it was very nice. It's more like a New England black IPA than a more kind of West Coasty type one though. But yeah, this one I think is very, very nice. It actually reminds me of a few of the beers that I've had from Malmö Brewing Company over the last wee while. So yeah, very, very nice. Yeah, where do we start with this one then? Yeah, I think that's really well executed. So, like I said, well done to Beerbliotek for this one. So yeah, let's just break down the beer, the flavour, as we always do. So straight away across the middle of your palate, you can feel that nice, smooth, bready backbone to the beer, which I really, really enjoy. So you can feel that, and it is a mix of like a white bread and a brown bread in there, and there is a wee touch of bread crust, but that goes straight away. That goes straight across the middle of your palate then. So I really enjoy that. But either end of the either end of that middle third of your palate, you definitely get a more kind of intense bread crusty note. So yeah, the white brown bready base that extends from the middle third of your palate down to the back end of the palate, and then either end of the middle third, you get a nice you do get a nice sort of kind of bread crusty element out of it, which I can certainly appreciate. So yeah, really like how that goes together. But on top of that, you get as I say, you get a little bit of a you do, on top of the kind of bready layers in this one, it's quite straight shooting in a sense. The breadiness kind of thickens up a wee bit the more you drink of the beer and smoothens out, but then on top of that you've got the kind of boozy sort of brown sugary layer. In a lot of ways this beer is very, pardon me, kind of straight shooting, but it's one of these ones that's just really well crafted, and we know that Beerbliotek are very good at this, so it's not a surprise. So yeah, on the as we say, on the on top of that kind of bready layer that the beer has, and the bread incidentally kind of sweetens up and becomes a little bit more like a white bread the more that you drink of this beer, but on top of that you do get this kind of oval sitting there, and that's where you get the kind of brown sugary elements out of this beer. So if you go into the dead centre of your palate, you've got a concentrated kind of sweet boozy caramel in there. And again, that's really nicely executed. But as you move further out from that, it gradually becomes a little bit more sort of biscuity. You get a little bit more of that McVitie's digestive, biscuity, grainy type character. out of that as you move out towards the extremities of that middle third of your palate. And I think that is very, very nice. The malt base in this one is very, very well done actually, and as I say, it reminds me of a few of the beers that I've had from Malmö Brewing Company in recent times. So yeah, I like that for sure. So in terms of the, I think we've covered the middle third of your palate there quite well. You maybe get one or two tiny woody undertones to this, but otherwise no. Bread, you know, white brown bread, bit of bread crust, smoother kind of brown sugary elements to it, and you know, bit of caramel, bit of biscuit. That's it, tea. But yeah, on the as we say, on the back third of your palate, I'm having a few brain farts in this video. Brain's getting old. But yeah, on the border region between middle third and back third of your palate, then you can feel the you just get a little bit of a bready build up there, a bit more of a kind of concentrated bread crust. Then into the back third of your palate, you get a smoother kind of bread crusty backbone, a kind of a more white brown bready sort of thing in there. Then on top of that, you get a little bit more of a you get a more kind of airy, yeasty type note out of this one. So you know, you can feel that sort of airy, more airy, bready sort of thing. It's more like a kind of brown, wholemealy, slightly sweet kind of character you get from the bready notes in the yeast. So when you start at the back of the palate, you can feel the flavour is a little bit taller and it condenses down, and as you reach that border region to the middle third of your palate, it condenses down quite a little bit. Then the flavours in the middle third of your tongue are quite, you know, condensed together actually. But I think again that really works quite well in this beer. It gives the beer that nice kind of more oily character that you expect of a West Coast IPA. So I say that this one, it does have quite a nice bit of bready character to it, but it's almost like right in the middle of those two different types of West Coast IPA. As I was kind of saying to earlier, it's got a bit of breadiness to it, but the bread is quite dense in a sense, and it starts to lean more towards the kind of brown sugary side of things. But yeah, I think this one is really, really nicely done from the malty side of things, and it's crucial to get the malt base right in a West Coast IPA, and Beerbliotek have done that, but we know they're capable of this, so it's not a surprise. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, so back corners of the palate, there is a teeny little bit of earthiness in this one. As you move further forward, you can feel it gets a little bit herbal, but as you reach the kind of front corners of the palate, it's definitely more kind of floral and aromatic, and there is a wee bit of spiciness to this one, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of Columbus has been used in this as the bittering hop. That said, you know, if they have used Citra in the bittering stage, Citra is equally capable of giving you a big, you know, kind of dank green note to the beer. So you do get a little bit of dankness out of this one, and also a nice little bit of spiciness too, which I can certainly appreciate. But round the front curve of the tongue, this beer is most definitely lighter. It's more lighter and grassy, and it's got a wee bit of a kind of citrusy, zesty element to it as well. So I really like how this beer goes about its business in that sense. So the green component again is very well executed, but like I said, this beer is not as bitter as some of the other ones, but we'll come to that when we look at the mouthfeel. But you know, it's everything about this West Coast IPA is old school, bar the bitterness. But let's focus on the fruity part of the beer then. So yeah, on that front third of your palate then, this is where you always get the big juicy fruity part of the beer. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a bit of a bready build up and a wee bit of a kind of bread crusty thing in there. Base of the front third of your palate again is a bit smooth and kind of bready in a sense. You get a wee bit of a kind of brown bready character out of it. Then on top of that, you get a nice kind of oily, you do get a more kind of oily mango character in there as well. You can feel that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So yeah, for me, at the back of that front third of your palate, you're getting a wee bit of the kind of more pungent passion fruit, which you can expect from Citra. But as you move further forward from that, it becomes all about that big oily mango. Of course, there are one or two, you know, dried apricot notes in there and a wee bit of a kind of pineapple-y sort of thing. But yeah, as you move into the front half, of that front third of your tongue, I think it does become a little bit more, you get almost a little touch of a kind of limey note out of this one, and Citra is capable of giving you that, so you get a wee bit of a kind of limey, almost even slightly gooseberry sort of thing out of that. Citra can give you some really interesting complexities in the beer, but the you know, as I say, the mango comes quite far forward. You've got a little bit of pineapple in there. As I say, there's a little bit of a kind of longer limey element to this one. So yeah, as you move on to the front edge of your palate, as I say, you get a slightly more concentrated lemon limey note there, and that's just behind the kind of front tip of the tongue. So yeah, I do like how that goes together. But yeah, you can feel the kind of lemon limey notes you get out of the beer mix in well with the sort of more grassy, there's more zesty, grassy esters on the front tip of the tongue. And that's one thing I do like about Citra as well. I've been noticing that more in recent times, that Citra really gives you a little bit more of a grassy, zesty quality. So yeah, that's worth keeping in mind with this beer. That's one thing I love about Citra. But yeah, on the mouthfeel then, I think we've said everything we need to say about the flavour in this beer. But mouthfeel wise, this beer... This beer is a little bit more, it's kind of top end to mid-bodied, bottom end to full-bodied. It really does have a nice big oily character to it. I mean, that's how I would describe the mouthfeel in this one. It's nice and oily, but there's a degree of slickness in there as well. The carbonation is very, very smooth. In terms of IBUs, I think this one has to be about 50. I think it's only about 50 IBUs, this, and it doesn't, quite often with with the more modern West Coast IPAs, I find that the bitterness builds a little bit the more that you drink of them, but I think this one is only about 50 IBUs or something like that. And I say that, oh, you need to wait for the bitterness to build, and I can feel it building a wee bit towards the kind of back corners of the palate there, but nah, I think this is a sort of 50 or 60 IBU beer. This one, 60 I think would be the absolute most for this one. But yeah, the way that the green component works in this one I think is nice. You've got a nice bit of dankness underneath it, you've got a bit of a zesty grassiness there, so you've got that contrast that you want. But the fruity side of the beer is definitely oily, as I say. Lovely and slick. It really leans towards the tropical side of things, but you start to get a wee bit of a kind of citrusy, zesty note out of it as you go further into the aftertaste too. But overall, I think this one is a very, very nice beer. I think it goes about its business very, very well. And yeah, it's a solid West Coast double IPA, as I hoped it would be. But yeah, not quite as bitter as they used to be. That's my only complaint about it. But I understand why breweries do that these days, because a lot of the people that got into craft beer more recently are not used to these big 80, 90, 100 IBU West Coast IPAs that used to be the thing. But yeah, I think we can, pardon me, leave it at that for this beer. So yeah, this one was really interesting. So this one was the Am I Not Bitter Enough? An 8.5% West Coast double IPA, yes we could say, from Beerbliotek in Gothenburg in Sweden. And I guess the answer to this one is am I not bitter enough? I think it pulls off the lower bitterness actually quite well. So the answer is no. I think it's it is bitter enough. I think it pulls off its level of bitterness quite well. Can't be bothered playing about with yes and no and double negatives. Brain's too tired for that. But yeah, it's a really nice beer, this one. I enjoyed it, and I would recommend you have a go at this one, especially if, like me, you're a fan of the West Coasters. And it's nice to see that the IPAs, there's a bit more variety in the IPAs these days. We're getting more red IPAs, rye IPAs, black IPAs, West Coast IPAs, and the New Englands, of course, are still there as well. But it's nice to see that things are kind of re-diversifying a little bit away from just being all about the New Englands. So big thumbs up to Beerbliotek for this one, and I think we can leave it at that. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Beerbliotek. Do give me some other West Coast IPA recommendations, because I do love that as a style. But yeah, this one was the Am I Not Bitter Enough 8.5% West Coast double IPA from Beerbliotek in Gothenburg. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and see you guys in the next review.